Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Pain-Free Posture. Let's get started.
Anybody who will listen to us? That's what you do it. Never heard of it? You ever watched Jerry Seinfeld? It was a thing from Jerry Seinfeld.
All right. Are you ready?
Us? Oh my goodness.
We might get a couple more, but maybe not.
It's really windy out. It's windy and warm. Precursor to the storm.
Okay, feet pointed straight ahead. Take a moment to feel what's happening in your body, the indication of where your weight is on your feet from what's happening all the way up. Check your shoulders, feel your hands, move your head around. Just notice where you're at today. And then let's start at your shoulders. If you have a wall that you can go to easily, then go ahead and go to it. Yeah, bring your block with you so that you can stand up on there in just a moment. Realizing that the computer is crooked. I don't really know how to fix that today. Top one is crooked. I don't know, I think it's down below that. Oh well. No, it's just a little off from somewhere, but I don't know where. Okay. Standing at the wall, go to your breathing. So find your rib cage. Notice how you can tune your attention to your inhale and your exhale. Expand your rib cage laterally. Feel the air move in between the intercostal muscles and then exhale completely. Again, deep breath in, full expansion, and full exhale. Again, inhale. And exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Bring your hands to your fingers in to meet the palm and bring them to your temples. Bring your elbows together so they touch and all the way back to the wall. And just notice between the right and left side, do you have shoulders that are working like a hinge today? All the way in, all the way out. Feel your upper middle back touch the wall, your head touch the wall, and your butt. There should be some space between your lower back and the wall so that you're maintaining your curves and also space where your neck is. Awesome. Full arm raise all the way up. See, as far as you can get it, allow the shoulder blades to slide up by your ears for right now. They can come out so the shoulder blade moves out into the armpit. And that's one of the things that we measure when we look at people and how the shoulder blade moves and rotates is, does the shoulder girdle slide correctly? Is there good timing between how the arm bone and the scapula are moving to get it up there? Does it pull too far? So sometimes if you have tightness, then the shoulder blade will move too far out. And looking at how the shoulder blade moves is part of what we can determine when people have pain in the attachment. We can also look at someone's thoracic back. So the shoulder blades can't move correctly if the upper back is too round. So something like this, as long as there's no pain, can help both of those places. Open up the upper back and change at the level of the shoulder. Good, and if you can just come to here without pain, that's okay too. Just feel where that is. This time go up, and then let your elbows go down before the shoulders do. Then slide them up toward your ears, all the way up. Reach, and then elbows before the shoulders, separating the arm bone from the shoulder. We lost the music. Keep going. Keep your butt at the wall, please. All right, grab your block. Let's go into a wall drop. Put your block a couple of inches from the wall and stand up there. Allow your heels to hang down. Using the ankle going into that dorsiflexion to put a gentle lock at the ankle and drive rotation up higher up the chain, maybe into the knee or into the hip. Go back to your breathing, full deep breaths in and out. Yeah, you can put your hands on your rib cage to really feel it, get some feedback there. Big inhale, full exhale. Awesome. Into shoulder squeezes, pinch and release your shoulder blade together on your back. Squeeze, release, and just feel if it's even. If you have a bit of difference between the shoulder blade and rib cage, notice that. Or can you get a rotational change or a change in the leg bone all the way down from what we're doing all the way up at the shoulders? And then let's go to the hips. So into a butt squeeze, squeeze, release. You can put a micro bend in your knees if you need to, so that as you squeeze the glute, we get that external rotation to happen at the leg bone, turning that around if it's a little bit different between the right and left side. So pelvic disparity could change the angle of the femur. Finding your glutes brings the leg bone and the pelvis to neutral. Squeeze, release. Is it the same on both sides for you, or do you have one that contracts more easily than the other? And then up on your toes and down. Straight leg, calf raises. Let's do 20 of them. What's the stimulus that we want to add to your body today? We are stimulus response mechanisms. Our tissues have a tolerance, and if they're not used, it's a use it or lose it type of thing. So how do we work to change the stimulus to increase the stability or mobility of whatever we're trying to work, or just the alignment between the ankle, the knee, and the shoulder? I think that's about 20. Release it down. Step off your block, step forward, hands super spread wide, bring them out to the side. Spread the fingers as far apart as possible, keep your ribs cage down, circle forward, 40 circles. opposite, palms up. Same thing, fingers spread really, really wide. Reach your arms as far apart as possible for this one. Circle backwards. That little oscillation might help some of those deep muscles like the psoas come into alignment. If there's a difference between the right and left psoas length, that comes from your back through the front of your pelvis, hooks onto the inside of your leg bone. And it is one of the only muscles that crosses from the front to the back. The diaphragm does, some muscles maybe in the pelvic ring and in your throat, but mostly muscles kind of run the length of your body, front or back, and they are directional. But the psoas is really important because of how it moves from the front to the back of your body. From there, let's go ahead and go into a windmill. Away from the wall is okay. If you want to step back to the wall, you can. Lateral flexion of the spine, taking it over to one side, coming up. Now this has a slight warning. If you had some kind of disc bulge, and as soon as you went over, you had discomfort down the leg, I would tell you this is not a move for you today. How do we find the balance between keeping our spine healthy, doing these movements that like lateral flexion and rotation, take it wider. We use windmills often to help drop a hip. So sometimes you might go to a chiropractor, or you might know this about yourself, that you have one leg that seems like it's longer than the other, or one hip that elevates. Sometimes that is a leg length discrepancy, but often it's a pelvic rotation. So maybe you cross your legs all the time, and that makes one hip structure tighten up, or you sit in a certain way that has the muscles in the back tighten up, or this assistant hip flexor called your tensor fascia lata, your TFL muscle, it will elevate a hip. Go wider one more time. And when we take your legs wide, we use that muscle. If your hip's level, then we know that it's probably a pelvic rotation versus a true leg length discrepancy. Moving your rib cage and your spine, bring your legs back in, same thing. Over to one side and up and over to the other side. Shoulder rolls up and back and around. Let's stay with this lateral flexion one more time. So this time, bring your hands behind your head. You're gonna press your head back a little bit so that your head goes back over your shoulders. Your arms are giving you just a little resistance. And then bend your knees and let your butt stick out just a bit. Yeah, so your glutes are pulling your legs back behind you. And then as you go up, I want you to push your rib cage up to the sky and keep your elbows narrow towards your nose and lateral bend over. Rib cage uplifted, make some space in there, and then come back up. Same thing to the other side. Elbows stay narrow, rib cage gets to lift, open that space, and coming up. One more time. sit down into your squat a little bit. You can even pulse here, feeling the rib pull down on one side, reach up on the other side, and come up. And all the way up. Excellent. Come down onto your hands and knees, cats and dogs. Allow the shoulders to sink all the way together. Come all the way down and up. Then we'll go into the McGill Big 3 today. We'll work on some spinal stabilization. So come down onto your back or roll to your side. Let's use good spine hygiene as you do that. Come to your side, come down this way and roll onto your back. And then bring your hands underneath your back. Take your right foot and stretch it out. Hover it over the floor. This would be your first position. And just notice, as you bring the arms into that internal rotation, does it happen on both sides? Can you do that with both shoulders? So if you can't, your arms could be out here, that would be okay. If you've got it underneath, lift your elbows up off the floor, and then find your deep neck flexors by just hovering your head off the floor just slightly and hold. So curving your low back, lifting your head, finding all of this deep intrinsic layer of muscles, so as belly, deep neck flexors, and release. Switch sides. Hold that leg out there, elbows off the floor, slight hover of your head. 10-second hold. Release. Release your leg. Hold that leg out there. Lift. Can you breathe while all of this is still working to hold that tight? And release. Hold that leg out and lift. Keeping the curve in your low back. Release. One more time each side. Elbows up, head up. Hold and breathe. Release, and up, and release. From there, roll back onto your hands and knees. We're going into that hand leg opposite lift or bird dog. Hold it out there. Then bring the knee and arms down to the floor, lift it right back up, and hold again. Breathe. Down and lift. Down and lift. Keep going. sides. Arm and leg out there. Hold and breathe. Pay attention to your breath. Can you fully exhale while you're holding this up here and keep your shoulders and your pelvis level and stable. Bring it down and pull it right back up. One more. Awesome. Now find some version of a side plank. So your options again, up on that block, if you want to be a little more gentle to your shoulder. So this would be one option. Side planks are great for creating a bridge. So let's say you have some kind of instability in your back. Yeah, here's knees would be another option. Anytime that the spine is braced between two places on the ground, we create a bridge, which is more stable and less likely to form a shear force if there's some movement in your back that's a shear. We're trying to stiffen that out, essentially, so that the spine moves correctly without excess movement like a flat tire at a place where it's not supposed to move. This is also an option here if you're feeling advanced. Hold it up there and release it down. Good. Any of those versions, again, on your block, on your knee, on your feet. Find side plank on the other side. Hold it up there. Working the trunk in this lateral fashion. This can be kinder to a shoulder up on a block, like I have it if you have maybe some kind of rotator cuff, something, or just a shoulder that's a little bit out of position. We can still load it up, but it's not so much load. Find whatever is working for you, knees or feet. And release it down. Once more onto your hands and knees, cat and dogs. Integrate that work with the movement. And then let's go into a kneeling groin. So right foot forward, left foot back, hands on your knee. You're in a split hip position. That's going to change how the muscles in your back are working, how the psoas is working all the way up between your shoulders. Open up that space. Now, some of us have a psoas that's connected through the fascia to that arm. So if you take that arm up and then flex the wrist back, you can notice, does that significantly change the pull in that, where you feel that psoas or not? Good. Interlace your fingers, flip them over, go away from that back leg, open it up a little more, lateral bend. And come back up. Switch sides. How is it different for you between the right and left side? When we look at the psoas, it's interesting because the psoas can be short and tight and weak, or short and tight and strong, depending on what you're using it for. But if you're just sitting, it's likely that that muscle is short and weak, and that being able to lengthen it and then use it, strengthen it, so that it actually works for us when we're moving and walking and doing the things that we need to do. And side bend. Get back, and then come onto your back. We're going to work it now. Use your good spine hiking techniques to come down onto your back without rounding into that flop. Arms out to the side, up under your toes. Go into hip flexor lifts. So right leg, just moving it slightly away from your body, and then lifting and lowering that leg 20 times, up and down. It should be working right at the front of that hip. And then switch sides, up on the right toes, left leg moving away from you. 20 more lifts. Lift and lower. First side again, up on your left toes, right leg moving away from you. And once again, lift and lower. And switch. And then both feet on the floor. Bottom of your feet together, allow your knees to drop out to the side into a frog. And then let's make that active. So move into deep six, gently dropping them out, getting some lumbopelvic rhythm all the way from the leg bones up into the pelvis. 20 times. Excellent. Feet on the floor. Find your butt muscles. Squeeze and release your glutes. Try to separate them from your belly and don't change the curve in your low back as you squeeze them. So find those butt muscles, tighten and release, do 20 of those as well. Squeeze, release. And what we're doing with all of these hip flexor lifts, active frogs, and glute contractions and knee pillow squeezes is to reduce any little bit of pelvic rotation or disparity that might still be in there. So a hip that's elevated, a hip flexor that's tighter than the other, bringing it into this neutral position so that we get even balanced contraction between the glutes. Grab your block. And place it between your knees and give me a set of squeezes. Squeeze and release. Then into bridges. So lift your hips off the floor all the way up until you feel your glutes activate and lower back down. 20 lifts. Shoulders can roll gently underneath you. Rib cage stable. Lift and lower. All the way up. Let the arch stay in your low back so your butt hits the floor first as you come down. Awesome. Butt to the ground. Now knees into your chest. Keep the space between your lower back and the floor. So you might even put your hands there to be able to feel that. And then press your heels up to the sky. Hamstring curl down, bring your feet all the way down. So the movement is really happening around the hip joint. We're working at a hip hinge all the way down, all the way up. Awesome. Roll to your side. Come up to knee. Oh, everybody has 2 blocks. If you're at home, you have 2 blocks, great. If you don't have them, you can do this without blocks. Just go a little bit. So we're in this kneeling position. That's going to pull on the muscles that cross the hip and the knee. Even up into the psoas a little bit as you stabilize there. We're going to work these leg muscles in an eccentric contraction. So I want you to lean back a little bit and feel those muscles work, and then pull yourself back up. So we talked about the psoas being a muscle that when you sit gets short and tight. So right now, as your quad lengthens and you stabilize here, if you feel crunching or something too much, tuck your tailbone a little bit in your back so that you can take some pressure off the low back. It's not, we don't really want the spine to change too much here, but I do want the thigh length to change. And I want you to work that into a longer position and then pull it back up. Good, 10 times. All the way back, all the way up. And it's great. The farther you have control, the healthier we see knees and hips. All the way back, all the way up. Some people are putting stacks of pillows back behind them and going all the way back to that and all the way up. And eventually, people are being able to lower themselves all the way to the floor and come back up. So there's your goal. All the way back.
Those people are like Anna. Yeah.
Nice. Working some length into that thigh. Beautiful. All right. Take your left foot and bring it forward, and your right, bring it back. Go into that split hip position again. And then lean forward. Feel length happen in that front glute. And pull yourself up. Now bring that back farther. Okay. Bring them up and around, switching your hips. Other side. So check in. How does this feel in your back, this big split hip position? Is there a big difference between the tissue tolerance on the internal rotation of one hip and the external rotation of the other? Is this okay in your body? Okay, then listen to it. Say no. No, thank you.
No, it's not.
Come back to neutral. And come back to seated. Let's go into a seated wide split position. Try to rotate your sit bones back so that you're right on top of them. And then first just point flex. All the way down, all the way up. Get the feet to talk to the hips into your spine into your shoulders. Feel the length of those adductors. Adductors can become assistant hip flexors. They can have jobs that are not really their job. They can get tight and short also. that your hips open up a little bit more. Good. And then lean forward, bringing your chest and belly a little forward. Again, we're going to pull on that inside hamstring and adductor. Just breathe. One thing that is beginning to be studied quite a bit is stretch reflex. And so sometimes you could do a class, even my class, and the stretch reflex would be triggered, which means you get a lengthening, and sometimes even it feels really good of some of the muscles, but they tend to tighten right back up again. So you're playing in that, and often people report like, I feel good for about 15 minutes, and then I'm back in pain again. So if all we're doing is firing the stretch reflex into people's bodies, and it's not actually addressing what's going on pain-wise, if you're in pain, then it's something to pay attention to, and probably stability work is more of what needs to happen than stretching it out. Bring your legs back in. Hands behind you, hold it there, lift one leg up. Hold and breathe. Release, switch. Hold it. Release. Lift. Lower. Lift. Lower, one more each side. Lift. Stay there the whole 10 seconds this time. And release. Lift. And release. Excellent. Bring your legs into kind of a cobbler position. Straighten up your back. Feel your shoulders. Do they feel like they can evenly move between back, pelvis, sacrum? And bring your legs back in. Good. Come onto your hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, press yourself up and back into a downward facing dog. Let's release the shoulders and the hips. You can bend the knees, pedal out your dog pose, one heel releasing into the other. You could do this at the wall if you're, and more like a counter stretch if the shoulders don't want to be loaded. Release. All the way up to standing. Let's do a little bit of balance work. Just a little side step into a stable balance. Down and up. And switch. Yeah, heck yeah. Do you know that there's like scandal about him? Did he quit? Did he just, is somebody holding him hostage? He like just stopped showing up one day. It's very interesting. There's a whole big podcast about it.
Now I just had a Jack LaLanne.
Pulling boats. All right. Stand up there, last move of the day. Hold underneath your knee, foot circles, point flexes, shoulders down and back. Circle all the way around. Reverse.
Just like
She's in the fourth. And I change.
Point and flex. Feel the muscles all the way at the bottom of your foot, between your toes, across that arch, and then flex it back. Reverse. Point and flex. And release. Find your position for your meditation today. Come into seated or lying down. And take a moment to close your eyes. Just let go. Let go kind of quickly today as you move into this. To just releasing into what is right here. Letting anything that has to do with your to-do list or your personhood, who you are, what your relationships are, let that just drift into the back. And show up to your being. What does the energy of you feel like today? What frequency are you vibrating at? If you notice that there's aspects of a frequency that are lower, so anger, doubt, rage, any of those frequencies, How do you transmute them, shift them, move them, let go of them, shake them off? Bring in loving kindness, compassion, non-judgment, forgiveness. What arises as you get quiet enough to allow the noise that normally happens in your mind to soften? What shows up then? As a collective group, vibrating at a higher vibration, we can influence the field of energy that goes around this planet and maybe more. As we show up to support each other with loving kindness and care and compassion and forgiveness, we can let that go across the world. So if you notice that you're vibrating at a different frequency, take a moment to see what you can do to change how you're vibrating so that you can help lift the collective up. And if you need support, you can call on the support from all of us. Namaste. Merry Christmas, y'all. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next week.
Merry Christmas, Kyra.